Hi grade 7s, welcome to another video lesson of ours. So we're going to carry on where we left off yesterday. Yesterday I asked you to look at exercise 6.4 where we are subtracting and adding fractions. Remember, to do that you had to get a common denominator and then perform the operation subtraction or addition. Okay, we also dealt with mixed numbers and improper fractions, how to deal with those. So that's 6.4 number 2. Right, now we're going to carry on, or today we're going to carry on with word problems. So we're going to do exercise 6.5, and then I'm going to teach you how to multiply fractions together. Okay, so let's go to word examples first. So I'll look at the worked example on page 83 first. So it's the example right at the bottom. So it says, number 1, Tandi sells 14 of her 30 cupcakes at the Saturday market. Okay, 14 cupcakes out of the 30 that she has. Okay, that's the fraction of cupcakes that she sold. And John sells 2/3 of his cupcakes. And John sells 2/3 of his cupcakes. Okay, who sold most cupcakes? Basically, what they're asking is which of these fractions is bigger? Okay, so we need to compare them. If we look at 30 and 3, there's no common denominator, so we need to make one. Can we make one of these numbers look like one of the other denominators? Well, yes, this 3 can become a 30 by multiplying top and bottom by 10. Okay, so let's do that. So 2/3 equals multiply by 10 here, multiply by 10 there. 2 times 10 is 20 over 3 times 10 is 30. Right, so what was her name? Tandi sold 14 out of 30 cupcakes. John sold 20 out of 30 cupcakes. Okay, so obviously John sold more. Okay, and the next one, number 2. At the same market, Joe and Pandu are selling hot dogs. Joe sells a half of the hot dogs and Pandu sells a third of hot dogs. What fraction of the hot dogs was left at the end of the day? Okay, so we have some number of hot dogs that we are selling. We don't know what that number is, but 1 represents all the hot dogs. Okay, so we have 2 people selling hot dogs. One person sold half of the hot dogs that we have, and the other person sold a third of the hot dogs that we had. So the question is, how much hot dogs do we actually have left over? Well, all the hot dogs are represented by 1. Okay, from that 1, we're going to subtract a half because one person sold half the hot dogs, and then we're going to subtract a third. Okay, this is what we need to work out. All the hot dogs minus half minus a third. Well, to perform that operation, we need to get a common denominator. What is the common number between 2 and 3, or the lowest common number? Well, the simplest way is to multiply them together and check. 2 times 3 is 6, and that's the lowest common denominator between them. So remember, 1 can become anything. So, I mean, in terms of a fraction, right? Because we can take that whole pie and cut it into as many pieces as we want. So now we're cutting it into 6 pieces. So we still have 6 out of the 6 pieces that we cut our pie into, minus 1 over 2. How do we turn that denominator of 2 into a 6? Well, we have to multiply by 3. Whatever we do top and at the bottom, we do at the top. So multiply by 3, we get a 6. Multiply by 3, we get 3. Or 1 by 3, we get 3. Right? And then this third, how do we turn this denominator 3 into a 6? Well, we multiply by 2. Multiply the top by 2, we get 2. Multiply the bottom by 2, we get 6. Okay, now we have all common denominators. Now we can subtract. So we put a common denominator of 6, and we have 6 minus 3 minus 2, and that will equal to 1 out of 6. So there's a 6th hot dog left, or 1/6 of hot dogs left, whatever amount they had. Okay, guys, you can look at the answers on the next page. That's pretty much what we've done now. Now let's quickly look at exercise 6.5. So these are now word problems involved with fractions. So what you need to figure out is that what is the word problem asking you? Do you have to compare or add or subtract, or what is the story there? Okay, I'll help you with one. So exercise 6.5, number 1. Anne got 13 out of 25 answers correct in mathematics score, while Vuyo got a half of the answers correct. Who got a better score? Okay, guys, that's an easy one. I'll leave that one for you. Let me look at number 3. Okay, number 3, while taking part in a bicycle race, Michael only manages to cycle 4/5 of the way. His father manages to complete 9/11 of the race. Who rode the furthest? Okay, so the son finishes 4 out of 5 of 4/5 of the race, and then the father finishes 9/11 of the race. Okay, who drove the furthest? Well, we'll be asking which of these fractions is bigger, basically. Remember, to tell which fraction is bigger, we need a common denominator. So the common denominator here between 5 and 11, both of these are prime numbers. So I would say the easiest way is to multiply them together, and we get a denominator of 55, because 11 times 5 is 55. So how do we turn this 5 into a 55? Well, we times by 11 times by 11. Here, to turn this 11 into a 55, we times by 5 times by 5. Okay, guys, it's always the opposite what you multiply. So if this denominator is 11, you multiply by 11 here. If this is 5, you multiply by 5 there to get the same denominator. Okay, we do this and we get 44 over 55. And here we get 9 times 5 is 45 over 55. Okay, so who rode furthest? Well, it was the father by only a little bit. Okay, 45 is bigger than 44 out of the same 55 slices. Okay. Right, guys, so have a look at exercise 6.5. Try to get through it. And now I'm going to teach you how to multiply fractions together. Okay, so multiplying fractions, let's look at the example. I'll read the first paragraph for you. So when multiplying two fractions, all you have to do is multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. It is important to write a mixed number as an improper fraction before multiplying the fractions together. Okay, guys, so if we have a mixed number, we have to change it into an improper fraction, and then we multiply. Now, there's two ways of multiplying. They told us that we can just do the tops and the bottoms. I'll show you both ways, and well, they're essentially the same way. It just depends what order you do them in. Okay, so let's look at the examples that they've done for us. Let's look at number 1. We have a third of 2/3. Okay, so a third of 2/3. Remember, of means multiplication, so this equals 1/3 times 2/3. Okay, so the first step the first way we're going to learn is what they told us. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and then we'll see if we need to cancel or simplify further. So 1 times 2 gives me a 2 over 3 times 3 gives me a 9. Can we simplify that further, 2 over 9? No, because there's no common number between 2 or 9. Okay, so that was quite an easy one. Let's do a harder one. Let's do number 3. A quarter of 1 3/5. So we have a quarter of 1 3/5. Okay, so first we notice the of is a multiplication, and here we have a mixed number. So we need to change that to an improper fraction. Okay, so let's do that. 1 over 4 multiplied by. Right, we're cutting our 1 pi into pieces of 5. We still have the 5 pieces, so that's 1 times 5 gives me 5, plus 3 pieces that we already have. So that is 8 over 5. Okay, now we can multiply. Okay, so here we're going to multiply. 1 times 8 gives me 8 over 4 times 5 gives me 20. Okay, are we done? The answer is no, because these two can be simplified. There's a common number that goes into both of these. All right, so I look at these and I say, well, a 4 goes into there and a 4 goes into there. So I divide the 8 by 4, I get a 2. I divide the 20 by 4, I get a 5. And now 2 over 5 is my simplified fraction, and that's where we can stop. Now over here, I'm going to carry on this workings over here, and I'll show you the second way we can solve this. So instead of just multiplying them forward, just what we did over here, we can cancel like terms. Okay, so I'll say equals over here. So what we can see, we have a 4 and we have an 8 over there. So what we can do is we can cancel these two. So I divide that by 4, I get a 1. I divide that by 4, I get a 2. Now, once we've crossed out the like terms or the common terms that we can cancel, now we multiply tops and bottoms. So here we have 1 times 2, which is 2, over 1 times 5, which is 5. As you can see, we get exactly the same answer as before. It just depends where you want to simplify at what stage. I find it easier over here because once you write out your different fractions that you multiply, you can see if there's anything in common, or the same 2 and you cross them out, or 2 both even numbers and you can divide by 2 or by 3. But honestly, it's up to you what your preference is. If you go the route of just multiplying the tops and the bottoms, sometimes you're tempted to stop at this step over here. But you have to give me the simplified fraction. Okay, so that's the only thing that I can notice. All right, guys, so those are the 2 ways that we multiply fractions. Okay, so let's do some more examples in exercise 6.6. All right, so number 1, I'll do B for you. Okay, actually, you know what? Number 1 is pretty easy, so I'll leave that for you. Let's start with number 2. Calculate the value of half of 20. Okay, so now we have a fraction and a whole number. Okay, guys, when we have to multiply a fraction and a whole number, there's no issues involved. There's nothing complicated that we have to do. All we do is we take the whole number and put it over 1, and we treat it like a normal fraction, and we do exactly the same thing as we did before. All right, I'll show you. So let's do 2a, a half of 20. Okay, obviously a half of 20 is 10, but let's work it out. So we have a half of 20. Okay, that equals to a half multiplied by, of is multiplication, and the 20 I'm going to write as 20 over 1. And now I can multiply the tops, I can multiply the bottoms. What I notice here is there's this 2 over here, there's a 20 over there. So I'm going to divide by 2 here, get a 1, divide by 2, get a 10. Now I'm going to multiply the tops and the bottoms. 1 times 10 is 10, over 1 times 1 is 1, and 10 over 1 we know is just 10. Okay. All right, so that's number 2, guys. There's nothing complicated there. It's just write the whole number as over 1 and work it out. Let's look at number 3. Find the value of the following product and simplify if possible. All right, so here there's 2 steps. We're going to find the product and see if we can simplify. All right, let's do the first one. So 3a. Okay, we have 3 over 7 multiplied by a half. Okay, so what I notice here is that there's nothing to cancel. This 3 can't cancel with the 2 or the 7. There's nothing to cancel with the 1. So all we can do here is just multiply the numerators and denominators. 3 times 1 is 3, over 7 times 2 is 14, and we cannot simplify that any further, so that is our answer. All right. Now, if we look at, let's look at D. We have 12 times 7 over 12. Okay, we have 12 times 7 over 12. Well, the only thing to do is to put this over 1. So we have 12 over 1 multiplied by 7 over 12. Okay, here notice there's a common 12 and a common 12. So we can cross both of these out. Divide by 12, we get a 1. Divide by 12, we get a 1. Now we multiply the tops. 1 times 7 is 7 over 1 times 1 is 1. 7 over 1 is just 7. Okay. All right, guys, so have work through those. They're all pretty straightforward. So, and then next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to do exercise 6.7. We're going to look at percentages and how to divide fractions. Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, guys, so for today's lesson, remember we did 6.4 yesterday. Please complete exercise 6.5, which is the word problems, and exercise 6.6, which is just multiplication of fractions. Okay, there's worked examples in the section that you can use to help you. And guys, if you get stuck, drop me a little text on Skype. Tell me what the issue is, and maybe I can help you over Skype or just writing text. Okay, thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next lesson.